Hi everyone, I'm going to paint another little pansy, this time with some Daniel Smith watercolors. I'm hosting a watercolor workshop here in my tiny little village that I live in, and I have a few people that has never painted in watercolors and they want to learn how to paint a few little flowers. So I decided to practice, and I've been practicing quite a bit, and I decided to make nice short easy tutorials because obviously they've never painted before. And for this I'm just going to use the Pansy yellow medium from Daniel Smith. It is, I would say, a sort of semi-transparent watercolor, and it is a beautiful yellow, and I'm going to make sure that I don't mix any of the purple colors or the sepia that I use for the inside or the center of this little pansy. I don't want to mix the colors, especially with yellow. You have to be very careful when you paint with yellow because you can easily muddy these colors or dirty the colors, and I don't want to do that. So I have a little tissue paper handy so that I can lift out some highlights, and I always have tissue paper near me so that I can do that. Either I have too much pigment on my brush or just too much water, and it's very easy just to lift it out if you have your tissue handy and not have to rush to find some tissue paper. So you'll see that I mix some of that permanent yellow deep with this yellow as well, just to darken some of the tonal values. And apologies for that, that was the wind that just swept or closed the door. And you have to be careful where you live or where you leave your doors open, because if the wind is quite bad here, it just slams all the doors. So unfortunately that is exactly what happened, so I do apologize for that. I just mix a little bit more of that yellow, and you will see that I leave some parts of the yellow open on the paper, so I don't paint a full I don't paint that. I don't take the yellow all over this section. I just take it in sections, and the paper is wet there, so I'm very careful not to paint all over the whole section, because I do want the bottom layers to shine through. Also, these colors are from, like I said before, from Daniel Smith. It's a beautiful little dot card, and I will show you how it looks. This is the dot card, and I'm also going to use some of the sepia. I want quite a warm black instead of maybe the lunar black. Not that the lunar black is a cold black, but it's just the colder one that I have on this little dot card. So I prefer to use a little bit of a warmer one. And then I just wet and soften it a little bit because I don't want it to be too dark. So just see, I pick up some water and I just move it around to create that center of the little pansy. This is the quinacridone purple. This is a transparent purple, and I'm also going to use some of that sepia because now I want to create a very thick creamy mix for the flower, those little dark bits that you can see on a pansy. And the mix is going to be very buttery, more creamy to buttery, and I just want it to be very, very thick. So you see, I don't pick up any water. I basically just wet my brush just to activate the pigment on the dot card, and then I'm going to go in and drop in this beautiful color. We have a lot of these tiny little muggies or gogos in our garden at the moment because we live very close to the wine farms, and they're very active this time of the year, but soon it will pass. It's so cute because I have a lot of butterflies as well in the garden, and it's very hot, so it's very humid at the moment, but so beautiful. The garden is in full bloom. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see that I share quite a lot of my pictures of my garden with my Instagram followers and Facebook followers. And for now, I'm just going in with a very, very dark mix, and I want to paint it without a lot of water. So my brush is completely dry. The only water that's on my brush is the little bit of the pigment that I have and the water that's mixed into that dark pigment. And what you want to do if you are a beginner here, you don't want to have too much water on your brush because it will just flow into the yellow and create a real muddy mess, and I don't want that. I want to make sure that these colors stay where they are. I'm not going to soften them at all. I have to make sure that everything that I painted under the first few layers must be finished. However, I am going to go in later and just darken a few sections, but I'm going to make sure that the painting is completely dry. Well, not the painting, the paint is completely dry, my paper is completely dry. And you will feel that, you know, if you do your washing and you feel that your washing is a little bit wet, it's the same concept. You will feel that the paper is slightly wet, and you just wait for it to dry completely before you add these layers, because you don't want a muddy mess. And I just draw tiny little lines. I also have to use this brush because it is a dot card that I used that Prime Art provided us for this tutorial. So I have to use their brushes as well, which is also from Prime Art. So I think it's a 6 or a 5 brush. Has a very nice tip, it's synthetic hair. So I want to a bit more of that yellow. So quite a dark mix of the yellow. So this is permanent yellow deep with Hansa yellow medium. And you'll see just touching that will lift out a drop of it, but I'm very, very careful and make sure that I don't go over those darker mixes. But my painting is completely dry now. And I'm just taking it around these parts. I still leave some of the paper as light as possible so I don't take it everywhere. Make sure your water is clean as well. So here the paper is completely dry and I'm trying to rub out some of the pencil markings. I won't be able to remove all of it, but I just want to remove a few. And sometimes when you're careful and you don't go over the pencil markings, you'll be able to remove it with your putty eraser. I'm going to draw another one. We're going to paint a quick, easy one with a bit of purple. Oops, that's a bit skew and not what I wanted, so I'm just going to rub it out quick. Trying to fix it. Again, let's try again. It's quite easy to draw for yourself. You can see right here, you just draw these little lines. If you practice, you'll get it right quickly. And try and keep the proportions nice and equal, so they're not, one petal is not too big, but it doesn't matter if it's slightly big, but you don't want a massive petal and a smaller petal. I use my putty eraser just to soften the pencil markings. And I use my water just to show you how wet you want this. You don't want any puddles. And you just drop in some of the pigment, so that is wet and wet. And again, just a slight bit of pigment in the water so I can show you what I do. And then I just drop in some more color. We have a lot of clouds, so the clouds are moving in front of the window. And that was Tiger's alarm going off so that I can give him his heart tablet. It's a barking alarm. It's going to go off in 10 minutes again because I have to go give him his heart tablet. But we're nearly done. So I just drop in that purple. Now the purple mix that I normally mix, I use either French ultramarine with some of that anthracanoid red. I don't know how you pronounce it, anthracanoid red. But any red will do. So you know, you can even use some of your alizarin crimson. You don't have to use the Daniel Smith watercolors, but they are very nice, and I'm testing them all out for this workshop. And I must say, other than some of the paints I love, Daniel Smith is right up there. Beautiful colors. If you want transparent to semi-transparent watercolors, even opaque watercolors, I mostly paint with transparent watercolors, but they are absolutely beautiful. And some of my petals will be a little bit darker than the others. So I want to, oops, there was some yellow on the side of my glass, and that's not good. So just dab it up. So that was just a dot of the pigment when I wiped my brush. I don't necessarily touch it, but it must have touched it. And I just cleaned it up quickly. So if you do have your tissue paper handy, you'll be able to lift it out, because if you do mix brown and purple, it will create a beautiful brown that I don't necessarily want for this beautiful pansy of mine. I want to keep the colors soft and muted purple. And I don't necessarily want to use the quinacridone purple over the flower. I wanted to mix my own colors. So I just dropped in some of the French ultramarine. It's a beautiful color. I love French ultramarine. I use it very often. If you follow me, I use lots of French ultramarine. Such a beautiful blue. And I'm trying to keep it quite simple and easy, because if you remember when you started to paint, or if you haven't painted before, if you have to paint, it's quite difficult. You have to learn how to hold the brush, you have to know when to drop in your paint. So I'm trying to keep it as easy as possible, and also I still want to create a realistic, or not a flat painting on the paper. I do want to make it look like it's a little flower, and it's, you know, a little bit more 3D or 2D. So that's what I'm trying to do as well. And this paper, the paint just soaks into the paper so quickly, so I have to be very quick with the brush just to soften those lines, so it doesn't soak in and create hard lines. So now I'm going to mix in some of that sepia, go into the center, make sure that I don't touch those purple petals right now because they are still a bit wet. If I do, it's fine, I'll just lift it out. And now I'm going to go in with a yellow. So the French ultramarine is my favorite blue that I normally use when I mix my colors. And then I just use some of that pink or any color to mix it. Like I said before, you can play around with your colors. I drop in a bit of yellow on these petals as well, because I just want to create a little bit of a difference to what I'm normally painting. It doesn't matter. I'm very careful though, because the purple is completely dry now. If I do that while the purple is wet, I will just create again a muddy mess, and I don't want that. But if you make sure that your paint is completely dry, it will not necessarily create that muddy mess, as long as you control your water and your pigment and your colors. So I think it looks quite nice. Now I'm going to go in with a bit more of that darker mix, and the whole petal is dry now except that little part where I dropped in the yellow. But again, it creates a beautiful color, so I don't mind that. And now I have to go onto this part. I worked in the garden, so my hands are so dry, and I've got cuts all over because I'm pruning the roses. The roses are absolutely beautiful. If you follow me on Instagram, I'm sure you would have seen it. It is full of blooms. We had so much rain, and I love working in the garden, especially in the afternoon when it's a little bit colder. And then I just take these little darker sections, darker paint on these sections as well. I'm not following the reference photo exactly, just trying to create a little bit more fun on this little pansy. So I hope you will subscribe to my channel. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you soon with another tutorial. Have a nice day.